A unique world where huge ships did not sail on water but on sand, and within that sand, there were very dangerous and terrifying creatures. Anyone who stepped on the sand would be destroyed by them. In the beginning of this science fiction story, we are shown a different world. A large desert with a ship sailing on the sand. The ship moved in the same way as it would on water. Many warriors were aboard the ship, fearlessly moving forward. They aimed for a nearby tower and decided to head there. Suddenly, we see huge monster-like creatures emerging from the sand, attacking their ship. One warrior fell unconscious as the creatures grabbed hold of the ship and began their assault. The remaining warriors aboard the ship were attacked by these creatures. The scene then shifts to the real world, where we see a scene from Area 51 in the USA. Two military groups were stationed there. After a while, Group B received a message that Group A, which had gone for an inspection at Area 51, had mysteriously disappeared. The captain of Group B, a lady named Natalie, along with her team, set out to search for Group A. They followed the tire tracks of Group A, but suddenly they noticed the tracks disappeared at a certain point. There was no sign of Group A's tank or soldiers. Interestingly, small stones had been placed at various points around Area 51, and something was written on them in a language they didn't understand. Soon, black smoke began emerging from one direction, heading straight towards Natalie and her team. It was a storm filled with lightning. Natalie and her team quickly tried to move away from the storm, but they weren't fast enough to escape. The fierce storm lifted their entire tank into the air. After this point, Natalie and her team lost all control. The storm was full of lightning, and in an instant, Natalie and her team were teleported to the other world, the very world we saw at the beginning of the story. After regaining consciousness, Natalie's team discovers all of Team A's belongings, but sadly, none of Team A's members survived. Looking at their bodies, it seemed like they had been burned to death. But who could have done this? The entire area was a desolate desert. Natalie didn't wait for help. She and her team continued advancing through the desert with their tank. However, they had no idea that the real danger was lurking in the desert itself. As they moved forward, they came across a place where the skeleton of a giant animal was placed. It looked even bigger than a dinosaur. Just then, we see the warrior from the beginning of the story, the one who fell off the ship and survived. His name is Lin, and he was watching Natalie and her soldiers approach. Lin was the only one who knew the dangers hidden in the desert, so he fired arrows at them to warn them to leave the desert quickly. However, Natalie and her soldiers thought Lin was attacking them, so they opened fire on him with their advanced guns. But what was meant to happen, happened. Out of the ground emerged a terrifying creature that began chasing their tank. The team tried to escape from the creature as quickly as possible, but their speed in the desert wasn't fast enough. The huge, monstrous creature destroyed one of the tanks, killing many of Natalie's soldiers in the process. Natalie kept firing at the creature with a machine gun, but it easily disappeared into the sand to avoid the bullets. Natalie and her team abandoned the tank and tried to head toward a rocky path. However, the creature managed to capture several soldiers in its sharp claws. As it moved to attack more soldiers, Lin shot arrows at the creature, helping them escape. Natalie and her soldiers took the opportunity to quickly flee into a cave in the rocky area. The creature couldn't enter the cave, so it retreated back into the desert. Natalie and her soldiers thought they had finally escaped and were safe. But this was their misunderstanding, because soon, huge scorpions entered the cave. These dangerous scorpions looked like monsters. They grabbed several soldiers in their claws and tore them apart. Natalie was injured and fell unconscious. Inside the cave, it wasn't just scorpion-like creatures, but there were also large and dangerous spiders. Almost all of Natalie's companions were dead. After some time, when Natalie opened her eyes, she found herself in a spider's nest. She managed to free herself and started moving forward. Then, she found one of her soldier friends, but his body was becoming infected by the creatures. He knew he wasn't going to survive. Still, Natalie decided to take him with her and try to escape. However, the spider creatures had already realized this and came after them to kill them. Natalie's friend urged her to leave and, sacrificing himself, distracted the creatures to allow her to escape. Natalie continued moving upward toward an open path, but the creatures didn't stop chasing her. They grabbed her leg and started pulling her down, but Natalie threw a lighter, which caused a fire to break out. She managed to escape through the open path, narrowly avoiding the creatures. Natalie then noticed that the creatures were not coming out during the day. This meant they stayed inside during the daylight hours. After facing so many dangers, Natalie's state of mind was completely shattered. She had climbed to the top of one of the rocks, where she saw the endless desert around her. There was no one in sight. To check something, Natalie picked up a stone and threw it into the sand. Immediately, the dangerous desert creature appeared, which meant that the creature could sense even the slightest movement in the sand and attack. In a way, Natalie was completely trapped on top of the rocks because she couldn't cross the desert anymore. Just then, she spotted a large ship nearby. This was the same ship we saw at the beginning of the story. Natalie goes inside the ship to check if there is any food or supplies available. However, suddenly, Lynn appears, the same person who had attacked Natalie earlier. Lynn believed that people from another world could be a threat to them. A fierce fight breaks out between Natalie and Lynn. However, Lynn cleverly captures Natalie and takes her to a place that is safe both day and night, where no creatures could reach them. After locking Natalie in a cave, Lynn sets out to find a way out. He had been trapped in this place for a long time and needed to cross the desert to escape. But when he returns, he finds that Natalie is no longer there. Just then, Natalie sneaks up and attacks Lynn. They continue their intense battle and, in the process, end up in a place filled with the creature's giant nests. By mistake, Lynn falls into one of the nests. The spiders and creatures start moving towards him, ready to devour him. At the last moment, Natalie grabs him and pulls him out of the nest. Natalie explains that fighting alone won't help them survive, and they need to work together. She even offers Lynn a chocolate bar, something he had never eaten before in his life. After this, Lynn agrees to work with Natalie. Lynn tells her that they must cross the desert to reach a large tower on the other side. The tower is a teleportation device that can help them return to their respective worlds. But reaching it is extremely difficult. First, they need to avoid the desert creatures and get to the other side. Once there, they can use the grenades and dynamite inside the tower to fight the creatures. However, Lynn tells her that her small weapons won't be enough to defeat the creatures. To kill them, they will need the poison from the creatures of this world, the spider-like creatures that live underground. To gather the poison, Natalie decides to act as bait when night falls. She lures a creature toward her. As the spider creature attacks her, Lynn jumps down from above and kills it. Both of them quickly return to their cave with the creature's stinger. Lynn worked for several hours to extract all the poison from the stinger and made deadly weapons from it. These weapons could be used to kill the massive creature in the desert. Lynn also taught Natalie how to use these advanced weapons. Now, both of them were ready to fight the terrifying creature. As soon as they stepped into the desert, the dangerous creature appeared in front of them. Lynn aimed the poison weapon at the creature's eye, but he thought it would die from the poison. However, the creature didn't die. It continued to chase Lynn. On the other hand, Natalie kept firing at the creature with her guns. But the creature's attack caused Lynn to lose consciousness. Natalie realized that she had to save Lynn quickly, or she would lose her only companion. She rushed to Lynn and managed to get on top of the creature's head. Natalie pressed the weapon further into the creature's eye, causing the poison to spread through its body. The creature died instantly. With the creature gone, their path was now clear. Natalie, carrying Lynn, continued their journey through the desert. After walking for hours, they arrived at a place full of greenery, a place that felt like heaven to them. They took a break there to rest, as they had been eating nothing but desert dust for days. The place was home to ant-like creatures and animals. After such a long time, both Natalie and Lynn enjoyed fresh water and food. As night fell, a massive dragon suddenly appeared in the sky, setting fire to the forest around them. The animals panicked and began running, putting both Lynn and Natalie in danger. Just then, Lynn's warrior friends arrived and rescued them from the dangerous creatures. If they hadn't shown up, the creatures would have torn them apart. After everything calmed down, Lynn's friends took them both aboard their ship. Actually, these were the same people we saw at the beginning of the story. Their captain's name was Admiral. When the Admiral found out that Natalie was from another world, he immediately decided to capture her. However, after Lynn explained that Natalie was their ally, the Admiral released her. The Admiral then began explaining everything to Natalie, including how many people in their world came from Earth, and how all of this happened because of the massive tower. In fact, the people of the ancient civilization had incredibly advanced technology, and they used alien technology to make many inventions. One of these inventions was the teleportation machine, which could transport a person from one world to another. However, the inventions made by these ancient people still existed, and the Admiral's team didn't want anyone from another world to come here, nor did they want the dangerous creatures from this world to go to other worlds. His team had been trying for a long time to shut down the tower, but it wasn't an easy task because a massive, terrifying dragon guarded the tower. This dragon was 10 times the size of a normal dragon and could spit fire that was 100 times more powerful than regular fire. However, Natalie was assuring them that if they worked as a team, it would be possible. Although the Admiral and his team had tried many times before, after hearing Natalie's encouraging words, they were convinced to try again. Motivated, they set off toward the tower. After hours of travel, they passed through various places and finally arrived at the location of the tower. Natalie noticed that there were stones here, similar to those at Area 51, which were the cause of activating the teleportation machine. But now, a massive danger awaited them. The terrifying dragon landed on the ground in front of them. Its size was truly enormous, and it immediately began attacking the Admiral and his team. Natalie and the others split up and started attacking the dragon, but the dragon kept spewing fire from its mouth, burning everyone. No one was able to dodge the dragon's attacks. It seemed like Natalie and her team were about to lose. However, due to the intense fire from the dragon, a vibration was created, which activated the teleportation machine in the tower. And before they knew it, a teleportation loop opened, leading directly to Natalie's world, Earth. Just as the dragon had cornered Natalie, about to kill her, she leaped into the loop to escape. In the next moment, Natalie found herself back in her real world, where military forces were already searching for her and the other soldiers. Natalie thought she had fully escaped, but suddenly, soldiers noticed a massive shadow in the sky. It was none other than the terrifying dragon, which had followed the loop and arrived on Earth. The soldiers relentlessly attacked the dragon, but nothing seemed to work. The dragon began breathing fire in all directions, killing everyone in its path. At this point, Natalie decided that no matter what, she had to defeat the dragon. Initially, she only tried to avoid the dragon, but as it began to breathe fire again, Natalie threw a grenade into its mouth. This caused a massive explosion inside the dragon's stomach, severely injuring it. However, the dragon was still not dead. Just as it lunged to attack Natalie, Lynn and the Admiral arrived and started shooting arrows into the dragon. Together, they managed to kill the already injured dragon. Meanwhile, the teleportation loop had closed. Lynn and the Admiral approached Natalie and told her that while everything seemed to be okay now, they still needed to remain cautious. As long as the tower was not destroyed, the portal between Earth and that other world would remain open, allowing even more dangerous creatures to enter their world. Then, the ominous black smoke appeared, signaling the arrival of an even greater danger. And this is how our science fiction story comes to an end.